And welcome back. More evidence builds that a housing market recession is here, as last week we saw the smallest year-over-year increase in home prices in nearly a year. We also saw the biggest increase of housing inventory so far this year as well. So in today's video, I'm going to share exactly what's happening right now in the US housing market regarding home prices, housing inventory, home sales, price reductions, and much, much more. And of course, this will give us some indication of what lies ahead in our US housing market. So let's go ahead and dive right in. If you guys haven't subscribed just yet, I invite you to do so. I post frequent housing market updates so you guys can be more informed about whether you should be buying or selling a house right now. It's a very volatile market, so I hope you guys appreciate these videos here. So this is a weekly video I do for you guys based on Realtor.com's latest weekly data here. And this is a report that was published by Realtor.com on December 15th, which is today at the time of this video here. I'm making this video at 7:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And again, just like my previous videos, I'm actually not going to be going over Realtor.com's analysis. Instead, I'm going to provide my own analysis about what's happening right now in the US housing market. So if you go to Realtor.com/research/data, it takes this website right here. Let me just refresh this because they haven't actually updated this yet. This is a update for home prices, housing inventory, new listings, and much, much more. Click on this link right here. It takes you more or less to this data right here. I actually added some data to this, but this is more or less what we see when you click on that website here, or that link, I should say. For this week, which is the week ended December 10th, they provided updates for home prices, active listing inventory, new listings, and also days on the market compared to 1 year ago. However, at the time of this video, which again is the early morning hours of the 15th, they have not provided the number of reduced price listings compared to 1 year ago. That's okay though. I'll keep you guys posted once they actually release that information. And by the way, my apologies for my nasally voice. I've been sick for about a week now, so I have a cold. My whole family has got a cold. Anyways, it doesn't really matter, right? But just that's why my voice is like so off. Anyways, let's talk about home prices nationwide, because look at this. Last week, which was the week ending December 10th, the median asking price in the US here only increased by 9.5%. These are asking prices of people listing their houses for sale, only increased by 9.5% on a year-over-year basis. The big significance regarding this, though, is that this is the first time in 49 weeks that year-over-year home prices or the changes on a year-over-year basis here have dipped to single digits. So for the past 48 weeks, for last week, for the past 48 weeks, we saw double-digit increases in home prices. Now this is the first time in 49 weeks that we actually saw single-digit gains. Therefore, this is the smallest increase in asking prices in nearly a year across the United States, only up by 9.5% on a year-over-year basis. On top of that, asking prices in the US have decreased in 8 out of the last 9 weeks. The only increase we saw over the past 9 weeks was actually for the week ended November 26th, when asking prices increased from 11% up to 12.2%. And this decrease in asking prices on a year-over-year basis is due to seasonality, where housing prices tend to decrease in the last half of the year, especially in November and December as we approach the holidays here. But this decrease here is very significant because this 9.5% increase is the smallest increase we've been seeing so far this year, and actually in nearly a year. And also the gains we've been seeing over the past couple of weeks is far less than the gains we saw back in the summer months. Because back in the summer months, we saw gains in the range of 15% to about 18% on a year-over-year basis. Again, though, this is entirely normal to see home price gains to be a lot less in December and November compared to the summer months. So that's information regarding asking prices. It's also worth noting that Realtor.com, for whatever reason, they don't provide sold prices. Again, this is the lagging indicator, but based on Redfin's data, though, if you look at home prices now compared to May and June of this year, on a national level, the median sold price has decreased approximately 9 percentage points, 9% compared to May to June this year. So home prices have decreased by about 9% since May or June of this year on a national level, according to Redfin here. Let's also talk about housing inventory. which of course is active listing count, the same thing here. Because look at this, inventory has increased by 55% compared to the same week in 2021. This is actually the biggest year-over-year increase so far this year at 55% gains compared to 1 year ago. This is also very close to what AltosResearch.com is reporting as well on a national level, because based on my own analysis here, they're reporting gains of about 58% from 1 year ago for the number of houses available for sale, up by 58% versus 55% according to Realtor.com. And again, as it's important to you guys, this big increase of 55% or this big increase of housing inventory really ever since mid-May of this year is quite remarkable, because we've been seeing fewer new listings hitting the market for quite some time. So we've been seeing fewer people listing their house for sale, yet we're seeing an increase of housing inventory. So this is really telling us that home buying demand is decreasing. We're seeing fewer contracts being signed between buyers and sellers. And also it's taking longer for houses to sell right now, which is increasing housing inventory despite the fact that new listings have been decreasing for quite some time. Now let me share exactly what I mean by this, because active listings, or the growth rate of active listings compared to 1 year ago, has been increasing in 12 out of the last 13 weeks, despite the fact that we've been seeing declines of new listings for the past 23 weeks. Look at this. New listings have been decreasing for the past 23 weeks, going back all the way until July 9th of this year. Fewer new listings to hit the market compared to the same week in 2021. And last week, we actually saw a 16% decrease in new listings compared to the same time period in 2021. So it's pretty wild to see that new listings have been declining ever since really the early parts of July this year. And despite the fact we've been seeing fewer new listings, active listing inventory, or housing supply, has been increasing really ever since mid-May of this year, and has been increasing big time over the past several months now. So big picture here, what we're seeing right now is a decrease in home buying demand. It's taking longer for houses to sell, and therefore we're seeing fewer contracts being signed between buyers and seller. And that's the main reason why active listing inventory has been increasing. Now, it's also important to note that this would look a lot different if new listings were skyrocketing. Let's just kind of imagine a scenario where new listings were increasing by double digits for the past month or so. Active listing inventory would be absolutely skyrocketing, and home prices would be tanking as well. But we're not seeing that just yet, because in my opinion, we have a lot of people who have rates of less than 4%, less than 3%, and therefore they don't want to sell and give up their historically low rates, because rates right now are approximately 6.3%, whereas on January 1st, rates are around 3.3%. In regards to houses taking longer to sell right now versus last year, have a look at this, because days in the market has been increasing for the past 20 weeks in a row. In other words, for the past 20 weeks, it's taking longer for houses to sell compared to the same time period last year. And actually last week, it actually took 10 days longer to sell a house compared to the same week in 2021. As I mentioned in previous videos though, days in the market is based on closed home sales. So when looking at days in the market, this is a lagging indicator what our housing market was like 1 to 2 months ago. So basically look in the rearview mirror about what's happening with our housing market. Same thing for anything that has to do with closed home sales, such as the median sold price in the US right now. So looking at a lagging indicator of our housing market here. One last thing I want to mention regarding days on the market is this. Because look at this, back in the first 3 months this year, from January 1st until April 2nd, houses were selling faster compared to the same time period in 2021. Look at this, February 19th, it was taking 22 days faster to sell a house compared to the same week in 2021. So the first 3 months, houses on average were selling faster by double digits compared to 2021, and now it's just the opposite, taking 10 days longer to sell a house from a year ago. Let's also briefly talk about the number of reduced price listings and the share of reduced price listings as well. Again, Realtor.com has not posted last week's data, but last week was actually the biggest increase in the number of reduced price listings compared to 1 year ago, a gain of almost 121%. And on top of that, the gains of the number of reduced price listings has increased in 6 out of the last 9 weeks. Again, I'll definitely keep you posted once Realtor.com releases last week's data for price reductions. Let's also talk about the share of reduced price listings according to AltosResearch.com. Because for the week ended December 9th, the share of price reductions is at 42%, meaning approximately 4 of every 10 houses listed for sale right now have already reduced their asking prices. That's the share of price reductions at 42%. And approximately 7 months ago, the share of price reductions was 21%. So the share of price drops has doubled in the last 7 months. However, though, the share has only increased by about 2 percentage points in the last 3.5 months. So the share has slowed down noticeably since August and has decreased slightly from mid-November of this year. So in other words, we saw a huge increase in the share of reduced price listings in the first half of this year, but that has decreased big time since August of this year. Now here's exactly what I mean by this, because here's the share of reduced price listings according to AltosResearch.com. The share was increasing big time ever since the end of April until we hit the middle of August. So the share of price drops went from 19%, or let's say 20% on May 6th. The increase all the way up to about 38% by mid-August. But ever since then, the share has been increasing, but not as much as it once did. And in fact, over the past month, the share has decreased from about 43%. Now it's down to 42%. I would be doing a disservice to you guys if I didn't mention this though, because the share of price reductions right now at a national level at 42% is still much higher compared to last year when the share was about 27% and also 26% back in 2020. And back in pre-COVID, back in 2019, the share was only 32%. So the share of price reductions right now at 42% is much higher compared to the past few years. Now, before I share a summary in today's video and also some real estate market predictions toward the end of this video here, I also want to provide how this week compares to years past, going back to 2017. And by the way, Realtor.com only provides weekly data going back to July of 2017. So let's have a look at how this week compares to years past. So here's 2021 and 2020, where obviously our housing market was absolutely skyrocketing, which is much different compared to this year, of course. Look at this, because the share of price reductions decreased big time back in 2020 and 2021. And of course, houses were selling much faster compared to the previous year. Back in 2021, houses were selling 11 days faster compared to 2020. And then 2020, houses were selling about 15 days faster compared to 2019. I won't share all this data here. If you guys want a screenshot, go for it. But back in 2018, it is probably the best year we can look at how the data changed back in 2018 compared to now. Because back in 2018, rates increased from 4% to about 4.5% by year end. So rates increased by a whopping a half a percentage point in 1 year. Obviously, this year is so much different because rates have more or less doubled since January 1st of this year, going from about 3.3% now to about 6.3%. So obviously, we're not comparing apples to apples here, but in my opinion, this is the best, more recent year to look at what happened back in 2018 to see how that compares to now. Obviously, pre-COVID's 2018. So this year, home prices increased by 9.5%. Back in 2018, it was only a 7.4% increase. This is probably one of the reasons why we're seeing this huge increase of the number of reduced price listings this year compared to years past, because back in 2018, we only saw a 15% increase in price drops, whereas this year it's more than double compared to last year. Also, back in 2018, we actually saw only a 5% increase of housing supply. Now we have a 55% increase of housing supply. Okay, that was obviously a ton of info to share in today's video here, so I actually want to provide a summary just like I did in my previous videos here for you guys. And by the way, if you guys are still watching, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for watching, and please hit that like button. I greatly appreciate that. So, summary number 1 here. Inventory has been rising in 12 out of the last 13 weeks and rose by 55% last week compared to the same week 1 year ago. This growth rate is very much significant though, given the fact we've been seeing this huge decrease in new listings for the past 23 weeks in a row now, and new listings have been decreasing by double digits for 10 out of the last 11 weeks. Also, as a note right here, our housing market would look so much worse if new listings were increasing, but in fact, they're not. New listings have been decreasing for the past 23 weeks, but it's pretty eye-opening that despite this decrease of new listings, active listings have been increasing ever since really mid-May of this year. And number 2, mortgage rates are at the lowest levels since mid-September right now at 6.3%, the lowest levels since mid-September this year. But having said that, rates have nearly doubled since January 1st. However, though, rates have decreased by about 1 percentage point in the last month. So rates have decreased from about 7.3% now to 6.3%. And that 1% decrease in average mortgage rates causes a 10% increase in buyers' purchasing power. In other words, buyers looking to buy a house right now have a 10% increase in their purchasing power versus 1 month ago. And number 3, we saw a huge increase in the number of reduced price listings over the past 2 months. And 2 weeks ago was the biggest year-over-year increase in the number of reduced price listings so far this year. Additionally, the share of reduced price listings has doubled from 7 months ago, but the growth rate has slowed dramatically since August of this year. And number 4, houses are taking longer to sell compared to the same week 1 year ago for the past 20 consecutive weeks. Again, though, this is a lagging indicator what our housing market was like 1 to 2 months ago. I expect this to increase in the weeks and months ahead due to our seasonality of our housing market and also due to the spike in mortgage rates we've been seeing so far this year. All right, let's talk about some huge potential changes ahead, given the fact that mortgage rates have been averaging at over 6% since August 1st of this year, which is absolutely insane, given the fact that rates have been about 3% back in 2020 and 2021. That was the average for those 2 years here. So number 1, buyers have been priced out of this housing market, or they're waiting to decide what happens with this housing market and they're waiting on the sidelines here. So rates have increased around 3 percentage points over the past 12 months, and that causes a 30% decrease in buyers' purchasing power. And in my opinion, this lack of housing affordability is causing this huge decrease in home buying demand this year. And that brings me to number 2 here. We still have a lack of housing affordability in the US. For people looking to buy a median price home today, an average price home today, it's going to cost them approximately $550 more per month to buy a median price home today versus 1 year ago. And that's a whopping 46% increase in your average monthly housing payment compared to 1 year ago. Now, having said that, buyers looking to buy a house right now are going to be saving approximately $200 per month compared to 1 month ago because rates have decreased approximately 1 percentage point in the last month. And number 3, we'll likely see more declines in home sales as well as home prices in the next couple of months here. This could be significant given the rapid rise in rates. However, though, rates have been on a downward trend even after the recent Fed rate hike. In my opinion, though, it's very unlikely that rates decreasing from 7.3% to 6.3% is unlikely to cause a buyer's bonanza and a feeding frenzy amongst home buyers. Therefore, I expect the housing market will continue to slow down in the near term. We also could see a negative year-over-year price growth on a national level in the next coming months, depending on rates and fluctuations of housing inventory. In other words, we could be seeing on a national level home prices declining compared to 12 months ago. Of course, time will tell. I'll definitely keep you posted regarding that. Number 4, of course, to combat inflation, the Fed increased the federal funds rate on Wednesday by 50 basis points. This increases interest rates for HELOCs or home equity line of credits, credit cards, and new auto loans, but savings rates should increase as well. We probably won't have much long-term relief for mortgage rates until inflation winds down further. And number 5, rates were above 7% for the vast majority of October of this year. We're seeing the true effects of these high rates of over 7% in these stats I'm sharing in today's video here. And by the way, the National Association of Realtors will not release November stats for home sales and home prices until late December. And December stats by the National Association of Realtors will not be released until late January. That's one reason why I really appreciate Redfin's as well as Realtor.com's data, because they provide much more timely updates. And number 6, subscribing for free. I appreciate you guys watching this video, and I appreciate you as well for supporting my channel. I actually really enjoy making these videos, even when I have a cold here. Anyways, I hope you have an awesome day. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.